I mean, anyone that's in Kelowna can comment that Kelowna's an incredible city and it's evolving the way it needs to. And you guys seem to be kind of the front leader when it is, working with the province. Some of obviously like some hot topic discussions right now are, Airbnb, DCCs, some infill housing. Do we want to maybe start with Airbnb since it's pretty relevant information right now?
Yeah, definitely. We were very, very grateful with regards to, Airbnbs and looking at bringing that forward. It was a project which was a year and a half in the working. It wasn't something that just came about when the province initially mandated that we were unable to have Airbnbs within our community other than principal homes with secondary type of residences. Yeah. We knew that there was a series of areas within this community that had been zoned for Airbnbs previously. Individuals acquired those properties based upon that assumption, but we had to follow legislation that was imposed upon municipalities. So we had to come up with ways, and we did that through different programs to accelerate some of the development within this community to increase supply, to allow us to get to a level where our vacancy rate was at a point where we were able to kind of match what was legislation that was put out by the province. And then we needed to advocate. So I know we make the announcement on one day, but It was kind of years in the background work to make that all come together. We now have within our community Airbnbs that would be available for principal residences that have a secondary residence within their community or within their building. That stays in place. But now we've established areas, specific areas, subzones, so to speak, within the community, and especially around those properties that were initially zoned for Airbnbs, that they would now be available to use and to rent out as an Airbnb. A couple of items there. One is their strata would have to be on side and in agreement that they wanted Airbnbs within their building. And the other item is that it's not a blanket Airbnb throughout the whole city, because we do know that there were many neighborhoods that were disturbed by having houses in their neighborhood that were treated more or less like a hotel, and they weren't enjoying their lifestyle within their own community. So we haven't gone to that extent. What we're doing is we've gone back. We now have the opportunity to introduce it back into our community. We're taking this step of the housing that was previously zoned for it and not doing too much, because we don't want to go to a point where the good work that we've done to get our vacancy rate up is deteriorated substantially by having a blanket amount across the whole city again.
Like, what happens if the vacancy rate goes down in the future? Does this null and void all these changes, or?
No, if it gets below the percentage again, would probably be a discussion that we would have with the province at this point in time. Yeah. And, we suspect that there may be a little bit of an adjustment on this, but collectively, with all of those zonings that we put in place, it has the availability of about 2,100 units kind of throughout the city if they all chose to have Airbnb. But they don't all choose to have Airbnb. There's only roughly about 1,000 of them or 900 of them that had Airbnbs last time or had a license for Airbnb last time. Yeah. And we have about 450 homes that have principal residences. So we know we're sitting somewhere in that range of 1,400 or 1,500 potentially available units within the community. Yep. When we look at the growth that we're having in the other areas with regards to the rental products and things, and again, this is a little bit of forecasting, but we think there'll be a little bit of an adjustment, but not to the point where it will, take us back to where we were 4 years ago at under 1%.
A little bit of an adjustment as in vacancy rates coming down again?
Potentially, yes. Yeah. But there's also more product that is coming online.
Oh, yeah.
And there's more occupancy permits that are coming into play. So there's a little bit of predicting the future, but it's also trying to balance out, both directions.
I think to be, fully transparent, obviously my position was I was pretty frustrated when obviously the province came out with their legislation, but then the city came out with, further restrictions. And it's, I'm not naive to it's not a very difficult position to be in terms of the city, right? We one have, investors that bought these property, and then two on the other side are, housing needs. So it's not an easy position to be in. But I guess what was the mindset to come out with more restrictions at a municipal level, above and beyond the province?
When Airbnbs first started and I kind of first came into office, it was something that we as a city, before the province came out with their legislation, we as a city were going to look at saying, okay, we truly need to look at Airbnb rentals throughout our community, because as many frustrated individuals as there are on saying, you know what, I'm not able to get Airbnb or I'm not able to rent Airbnb, we have just as many frustrated individuals within this community saying, you know what, I go home on a Friday night and, you know, I'm woken up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because the place next to me is a hotel.
It has 24 people in the pool.
Yeah, some of the pictures I saw that I got sent to me from some of those parties, you know, they were pictures which are showing that how they affected neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So we were en route to looking at making some of those changes because of the bylaw calls, because of the cost of our kind of do it. So we continued through that path, not knowing what we know today, knowing that we needed to kind of make some changes. Hindsight is always extremely, extremely powerful in these situations, but we knew that we were getting excessive disruptions within our neighborhoods. We knew that our vacancy rate was down below 1%. We needed to kind of make some of those adjustments because rents were continually increasing. There wasn't any break there and vacancies weren't. So to answer your question, it was just a matter of how do we best manage this at this particular point in time? Legislation, which came in kind of after the fact, and then changed everything substantially on, you know, what we needed to do in process. And it also gave us a little bit of breathing times to establish a stronger route possible. And again, I mean, going back to the question about short-term rentals, I mean, I'm so grateful that as of June 1st, when we have, you know, all of the events coming here, the Memorial Cup, the basketball, the BC Lions, BC Summer Games, everything. It was a lot of work, but I'm so grateful that we were able to. And the nice thing about it, not knowing if you know, but we changed legislation throughout the province. So before, it would have always been November 1st. And so we changed the legislation. So now it's reviewed in February, and any other community in the province, when they're looking at it, would have a June 1st effective date.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the whole province. I thought that was a Kelowna exemption.
It is a Kelowna exemption. We got the only exemption this time, but we changed the legislation moving forward.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So only Kelowna this year, but going forward, if you opt out.
Only Kelowna this year. And I was down in Vancouver with a bunch of mayors last week, and they weren't really happy about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like that is my personal stance with Kelowna. Like I said before, like we are kind of the front runner in terms of evolving. So yeah, we appreciate the work you guys have done there.
Before we move on, were you working with Gavin Dew to get this done? Because he seemed to be pretty vocal about this issue.
I had discussions with Gavin, and Gavin was aware that this was a concern of our residents. But no, our alignments with our city staff and working alongside our city staff and working alongside the government, the minister, the ministry staff, all of those particular items was completely separate. But obviously, when any of our MLAs or any individuals who are in government recognize that there's needs within the community and they lean in a little bit, that's always definitely appreciated, as long as it's always respectful, right? Because we were having positive discussions and kind of working this way for a long time. And like I said, it was about a year and a half or better in the working. It just gets announced on one day.